So what we're talking about here is just kind of a freestyle conversation about running kind of in an innovation center. And first of all, let me say that there's two worlds here, right? There's kind of the physical world and there's the virtual world. And these things relate to each other a lot, but let's start with the virtual world. We want to think about things like who are the constituencies. In a normal physical property, we have the tenants and the vendors and the owners, okay? In a innovation context, we also have other groups. We have the government, we have investors, innovators, we have the academic community, media, visitors. This might be a delegation or people from industry. We also have event attendees, participants in things, mentors, influencers. Okay, so even just thinking about that, this is a totally different cast of characters than, you know, the somewhat one-dimensional world that we have with running a traditional property. There's many different activities that we have to think about, right? There's obviously the standard things like leasing, but we have co-working, events, tours, maybe media production, programs. There's some element of this that is like running a YMCA. We have shared spaces. Now let's get to this. In the physical, you know, we certainly have, and we're saying tenant here, we really mean not so much tenant as licensee or user, member, or tenant. And we can think of this all together as customers. Okay, they're paying us for something. So on the physical side, we obviously have dedicated space. Think of this as traditional office, but we also have shared space with dedicated office. This is work style. We'll have true co-working. There's labs, media production space, food service, event or classroom space, maybe conference or meeting facilities, casual space, shared. I guess that's kind of similar to shared, but this is more like a work style, and this is just shared for the property overall. A couple more things I'm kind of forgetting. Don't forget constituencies is the neighborhood or civic groups. This could be schools, churches, clubs of various kinds. And so if we think about these two things together, not only do we need to kind of keep track of and maintain all of that, but it leads to a series of activities that we probably want to think about. There's not room for it on this page, but these are things that happen on a regular basis. This is stuff that we're doing. Really, as we think about various physical spaces and we think about the constituencies that might use them, for example, maybe we're talking about labs. Okay. Another constituency, by the way, is people who work there, right? The employees. I'm going to write that down on the other page. So let's say we're talking about labs, okay? And now we're talking about employees. We're going to have some kind of training, some kind of certification. Maybe we're talking about labs and we're talking about a user. Again, there's going to need to be an orientation. Maybe they're going to have to book time or space or equipment. Maybe we're going to want to charge them. Maybe there's feedback. For the employee side, maybe there's an open the lab, close the lab, and QA the lab. Maybe there's a safety inspection that we want them to do. If there's a visitors, okay, maybe there's a tour. We want to provide them a tour script for the employee who's going to be the tour guide, and so forth. This is just one thing, but as we kind of walk through what does it take to really run an organization like this, we're going to wind up with a laundry list of things that we want to do and be able to maintain. Okay, so for example, we might have a new tenant, or I should say this is for office space. We have a new tenant. Okay, what is their experience? Are they getting a welcome? Do we know how to onboard them? Are we inviting them to do a video or a podcast, etc.? So this is really the world that we want to be in. We have a physical space. There's a bunch of virtual things that kind of happen around it, the constituencies and the different groups that are kind of related to it. As these different constituencies are interacting with the physical space, we have activities that are coming out of that. Some of them are happening in the space. Maybe some of them are happening in a virtual way. It could be promoting things online. It could be email communications that go out, so on and so forth. But this is operating innovation. And that's our goal, is to set up the ability to operate these innovative groups, these innovative spaces that are far beyond what we would recognize as a traditional office building. But there's definitely a physical component to it, and that's the task in front of us. It's a convention center on steroids.
Yeah.
It's a convention community. Okay.